I lay in a coma for 3 months while my husband brought his mistress into our chamber. Every night she slept in my bed. Every morning she wore my robes. Chapter 1. I married my husband, Ma Wenji, who was engaged to me since birth, to fulfill my dying father's wish. But Wenji had bought off our family's doctor, had him poisoned and paralyzed me. Then his family acted like they were my saviors. I trusted their fake kindness, transferring the rights of my family's businesses and estates to my husband. They laughed under my roof, indulged themselves in food and wine at my family's expenses while I was discarded. I thought I had died when my consciousness dissolved into nothing but darkness. Then I heard voices. Whispered names and heavy, ragged breathing. I couldn't move. Couldn't even pry my eyes open. So I lay there and listened as my husband called another woman's name over and over in soft breaths sweeter than any he had ever used for me. When they finally finished, Ma Wenji nudged my foot with the tip of his shoe. "Still a dead log," he sneered. "Why do you insist on doing it here?" his mistress asked uneasily. "What if she can hear us? She's not dead yet. It's so creepy." "It's the last time. I promise," he said. I heard the faint sound of him kissing her. "I'll have her moved to another room in the morning. Then all of this will be yours." "Really?" she asked excitedly. "Can I keep all her things too?" I could almost picture Wenji pulling her into his arms and spinning her around the room as if they were celebrating beside my grave. "She's not my wife," he said coldly. "As far as I'm concerned, she's one dead woman." The mistress finally urged him to leave, but she lingered behind. I heard drawers being pulled open one after another. Jewelry clinked softly in her hands. She rummaged through every corner of the room like a scavenger stripping a tomb. Then she stopped beside my bed. "Wenji said he never loved you. If your dead father hadn't forced that engagement onto him, he wouldn't have even glanced at you on the street. So he didn't betray you. He simply chose me instead." My mind was not paralyzed, so I felt everything. The humiliation, the betrayal, and the agony clawing through my chest. I could picture my husband holding her every night, whispering promises in the same room where we had once shared our marriage. On our bed. The next morning, Wenji had the servants carried my motionless body into an old abandoned room like discarded furniture. After that, I lost all sense of time. I no longer knew the difference between day and night. No one came to check on me. And when someone did, it was Ma Wengao, Wenji's older brother. A useless man who still leeched off the family at 30, too cowardly to take anything for himself unless Wenji allowed it. "Jing Jing," he called softly. My childhood name. The name only my parents had ever used. "My Jing Jing. I finally get to have you." He laughed under his breath. "I even tried to stay sober tonight." Then his body pressed down onto mine. His hand slid slowly along my cheek. At that moment, I wished my mind had been as paralyzed as my body. At least then I would not have to feel any of it. Ma Wenji. I swore that if I died, if I became nothing more than a wandering soul, I would hunt him. I would tear him apart piece by piece until he begged for death himself. I wanted regret to consume him so completely that even with his final breath, he would curse the day he betrayed me. But suddenly, when Gao's weight vanished, followed by a heavy thud echoed against the floor. I couldn't tell what had happened. A hand gently pulled my robe closed. Then a cool wet cloth carefully wiped my face. "It's all right." A man whispered near my ear. "Don't be afraid. Starting tomorrow, no one will touch you again. Rest assured, madame." The mysterious man carefully pried open my mouth and let a few drops of liquid slide down my throat. The last thing I remembered was the warmth of his hand wrapped around mine, and the sound of a soft lullaby drifting through the darkness. Chapter 2. When word arrived that my great-uncle was coming to visit me, the entire residence fell into panic. But it opened a path for me. Wenji immediately had me moved back into our chamber to hide the way he had treated me. My in-laws welcomed my great-uncle at the entrance as though they were the true masters of the residence, while Wenji desperately tried to stop him from seeing me. "She's beyond saving now," Wenji said, forcing a grief-stricken expression onto his face. "She would not want you to see her in such a state." But he never expected me to appear at that exact moment. I dragged my body forward weakly, one trembling step at a time. Before collapsing onto the floor, I stretched a shaking hand toward my great-uncle. "Jing Jing," he gasped, immediately rising to his feet. "Quickly. Fetch a doctor." Wenji stumbled back a step as though reality itself had betrayed him. My parents-in-law and Wengao froze where they stood, their faces draining of color. That was exactly what I wanted. I wanted fear to take root in their hearts long before my revenge began. "Wenji," I called weakly from my great-uncle's arms. "Where is my husband?" "He's here," he replied, gesturing for Wenji to come forward. Only then did Wenji finally move. He hurried over and pulled me tightly into his arms. "I'm here, Shu Jing," he said, his eyes already reddening with false tears. "You woke up, but how?" Truly, he was terrified of how I had managed to come back to life. Old Song, the family physician, was summoned soon after. His wrinkled hands trembled as he checked my pulse. I already knew he would not be able to explain it. The best answer he could offer was, "It is a miracle." Wenji's mother immediately clapped her hands together in delight. "Our prayers must have worked," she said emotionally. "Wenji and I prayed for you every single night. Not once did we miss a day. Miracle, my foot." Old Song would never have guessed that his own disciple had betrayed him. Bo Ming stood quietly behind his master, the faintest knowing smile tugging at the corner of his lips. A smile seen only by me. I still remembered the first time I met Bo Ming. He had only been a young boy then, blushing red the moment his eyes landed on me. Now he had grown into a calm and capable man, brilliant in medicine. It was Bo Ming who had secretly fed me the antidote before it became too late. While I lay trapped in darkness over the past months, he visited me every night. He inserted needles into my stiffened limbs, slowly restoring movement to my body while telling me everything that had happened during my coma. "You cannot let those people trample over you," he whispered. "Live. So you can take your revenge." And I swore I would. Something sweet and savage. So I forced myself to move. At first, only a finger. Every night, hundreds of needles piercing through my flesh, but I endured it all in silence. To protect me from Wengao, Bo Ming even mixed a foul-smelling herb and rubbed it onto my body. The stench was so unbearable that Wengao could not even step past the doorway. That was how I remained safe while my husband and his family believed my body had already begun rotting, merely waiting for death to claim me. The first time I confronted Bo Ming, I pressed a shard of broken glass against his throat. He did not flinch. Did not even blink. Instead, he stepped closer until the sharp edge touched his skin. "Why did you save me?" I asked, my trembling hand tightening around the shard. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing," he answered without hesitation. "And if you do not believe me, then kill me now. If you still believe I'm one of them." I could not fully trust him, but he was all I had left. And I needed his skills for what came next. "Bo Ming," I said softly, brushing my fingers against his cheek. "I need another favor. Will you help me?" He nodded immediately. "Anything for you, madam. I want you to find a man named Gu Yishang." Bo Ming's expression shifted instantly. "The infamous loan shark?" he asked in shock. "Madam, that man is dangerous." "Tell him my name," I replied calmly. "He will want to see me. But first, I need you to make 3 medicines for me." Chapter 3. My great-uncle could not stay long and left soon afterward. By then, Wenji had already dismissed all of my trusted maids and servants. When I looked around, I saw only unfamiliar faces. I was trapped inside my in-laws' grasp. But I did not flinch. I would not merely reclaim what belonged to me. I would make them suffer every ounce of pain they had inflicted on me. And I decided to begin with my mother-in-law. "Shu Jing," she asked cautiously. "While you were asleep, did you hear anything?" Despite the softness in her voice, I caught the fear beneath it. I gently shook my head. Only vague voices. Like fragments drifting through a dream. Her shoulders visibly relaxed. I remembered how kind she had once pretended to be. When my body weakened and I could no longer lift my own hands, she had personally fed me meals and wiped away the tears gathering at the corners of my eyes. "Shu Jing," she told me tenderly, "I love you like my own daughter." But the moment I became helpless, she revealed her true face. She had splashed a basin of freezing water across my body while I lay unable to move. "Here. Isn't this enough water for you?" she sneered. "If only you had let my son take over your father's business from the start, I would have treated you better. But you always acted as though he were beneath you. From the very beginning, this family had coveted my father's fortune. They pushed for the marriage before his death and shamelessly claimed it had been his final wish. My mother-in-law fed me poison, so I returned the favor. The first medicine I asked Bo Ming to create was the very same poison Old Song had used on me, only stronger. It did not require 3 months to take effect. Only 1 week. Bo Ming mixed it into her daily medicine without anyone noticing. Soon my mother-in-law could no longer move. Then she lost the ability to speak. And just like me, she realized the truth far too late. Wenji immediately summoned Old Song, but unfortunately the old physician had suddenly fallen ill himself. What a coincidence. So Bo Ming was sent in his place. "Do not worry," Bo Ming assured the family calmly. Unlike Madame Shu Jing's condition, this paralysis is only temporary. With regular acupuncture treatments, she should recover. The entire family sighed in relief, believing themselves fortunate. No one suspected a thing. I leaned closer to my mother-in-law and whispered softly into her ear. Mother, you are merely the first course. I will not let you fall into a coma as I did. I want you awake. I want you conscious enough to watch your precious family collapse piece by piece. Her lips trembled violently. Saliva spilled helplessly from the corner of her mouth, and I calmly wiped it away with a cloth. You know resisting is useless, I whispered. So sit quietly while you still can. Meanwhile, Wen Ji had grown more cautious after my awakening. He no longer dared bring his mistress into our residence. Instead, he visited her secretly at a courtesan house. Even while his own mother lay paralyzed. I found him there one evening. His mistress sat in his lap with her robes loosened, her hands tangled against his chest while Wen Ji kissed her neck hungrily. The moment he saw me standing at the doorway, he shoved her away so quickly she nearly fell to the floor. Shu Jing, he gasped, hurriedly fixing his robe. What are you doing here? I smiled faintly and stepped inside, blocking the exit before he could leave. I heard you frequented this place while I was in a coma, I said calmly, glancing past him toward the woman shrinking silently into the corner. Who told you that? Wen Ji demanded, his face flushing red. I only came a few times. I do not blame you, I interrupted softly. I placed a hand against his chest. As your wife, I could not fulfill my duties during those months. Naturally, you had needs. Then I gently turned him toward his mistress. Please, continue. I tossed a pouch of silver onto the floor at her feet. Take good care of my husband. The woman's expression darkened instantly. And I knew why. In that moment, I made it clear that she had not stolen Wen Ji from me. Nor had he chosen her over me. I was the one discarding him. Like scraps thrown to a starving dog. Her eyes burned with humiliation as they fixed themselves on my hand that wrapped possessively around Wen Ji's arm. Now that I had found the woman my husband truly loved, it was time to tear them apart. Chapter 4. The mistress's scream shattered the peaceful silence of the residence. Maids and servants rushed toward Wen Gao's chamber just in time to see the woman stumbling out of the room with disheveled robes and tear-streaked cheeks. Wen Gao followed close behind, half-dressed and barefoot. Stay away from me, you lunatic, she screamed, pointing at him with trembling fingers. The moment Wen Ji appeared, she immediately threw herself into his arms. His face darkened as his eyes swept over the two of them. Their appearances alone were enough to tell the story. It's not what it looks like, the mistress cried desperately, shaking her head over and over. I don't know what happened. He must have drugged me and brought me into his room. Wen Ji, please believe me. I'm innocent. Wen Gao stood frozen in place, clearly still dazed. Then realization slowly struck him. His face drained of color. No. He stammered, shaking his head violently. Before he could explain further, Wen Ji kicked him hard in the knee. You dared touch my woman? Wen Gao collapsed onto the floor. I didn't do anything, he shouted frantically. She came into my room herself. I never forced her. I swear it. She's your woman, Wen Ji. I would never touch your woman. But Wen Ji was already blinded by rage. He grabbed Wen Gao by the collar and slammed his fist into his face again and again until his older brother sprawled helplessly across the ground, bruised and bleeding. What is going on here? My father-in-law's furious voice cut through the chaos. The courtyard instantly fell silent. Is this what it is? He asked again. You brothers are fighting over a courtesan? His sharp eyes swept across the scene before landing on the mistress. So it's you, he said sternly. Wen Ji immediately shoved the woman behind him protectively. It's nothing important, father. Just a misunderstanding. I'll handle it myself. Trash, my father-in-law snapped. Is chasing women the only thing either of you knows how to do? His gaze moved between his sons with growing disgust. I work tirelessly every single day for this family, and this is how you repay me. By dragging our family name through filth. I truly didn't touch her, Wen Gao insisted desperately from the floor. She's Wen Ji's woman. She probably entered the wrong room by mistake. I could practically hear Wen Ji grinding his teeth. His fists clenched so tightly the veins stood out beneath his skin. Quietly, I stepped beside my father-in-law. This matter is serious, father, I said softly. What if she later becomes pregnant with brother-in-law's child? Once word spreads, our family's reputation will be ruined. People will laugh at us for generations. My father-in-law's expression shifted instantly. As expected, nothing mattered more to him than reputation. If the source of the scandal disappears, I added gently, then perhaps the scandal itself can still be contained. Shut up, Shu Jing, Wenji snarled at me. But my father-in-law had already made his decision. Take her away, he ordered the servants coldly. I never want this woman appearing before me again. Do you understand? The servants immediately seized the mistress by the arms. Then my father-in-law turned toward his sons with murderous fury. And if either of you continues seeing her, he warned, I will personally cast you out of this family. The mistress's face crumbled into despair. She clung tightly to Wenji's sleeve. Wenji, save me please. But Wenji only stared down at her with cold disgust. One by one he peeled her fingers off his arm. Let go of me, he spat before shoving her violently onto the ground. You really are nothing more than a whore. Who knows how many men you've climbed into bed with behind my back? I almost smiled. He probably knew she had not betrayed him at all. But in the end he still chose to save his own skin. Because without his family's status and wealth, Ma Wenji was nothing. I slowly turned toward my mother-in-law, who sat silently in her chair, unable to move, forced to witness everything unfolding before her eyes. I leaned close beside her ear. How does it feel to not even be able to cry? That night, Wenji tried to touch me. I refused him immediately. Even his breathing disgusted me. Our chamber still carried the faint scent of his mistress's perfume, clinging stubbornly to the curtains and bedding like a stain that refused to fade. A constant reminder of his betrayal. Do you think I even want to touch you? He slurred bitterly. Shu Jing, I've hated you my entire life. The perfect daughter. The talented woman who excelled at everything. His smile twisted cruelly. You always had to win. Always had to prove to your dead father that you were worth something. Do not speak about my father, I warned coldly. Or what? He mocked, leaning close enough for me to smell the wine on his breath. His fingers clamped painfully around my wrist. What are you going to do? He sneered. You're alone in this world now. No one's coming to save you. Unless your father crawls out of his grave. I slapped him across the face with my free hand. The sound echoed sharply through the room. I warned you. He shoved me hard against the wall, pinning me there. Tell me the truth, he demanded. You had something to do with what happened this morning, didn't you? Was that your revenge for finding out about the courtesan house? I let out a cold laugh. As though his betrayal had been something so small. It was clearly an affair. And he thought I was merely jealous. Answer me, he snapped. Why would I? I replied calmly. I didn't even know she was your favorite until brother-in-law blurted it out himself. Whatever happened between them has nothing to do with me. Fine, he said darkly. He shoved me onto the bed. Since she's gone, he muttered, loosening his robe, I'll just have my way with you instead. But only moments later, his movements abruptly stopped. The smugness on his face vanished, replaced by confusion. Then panic. Why? He muttered under his breath. He stared down at himself in disbelief. Why isn't anything happening? Slowly, he turned toward me. Then, suddenly his eyes widened. I know, he said hoarsely. It's you. It has to be you. A strange excitement overtook his expression, as though he had finally solved a difficult puzzle. I wasn't like this with her, he said quickly. I need to find her. I watched him stumble out of the room in desperation and nearly smiled. The second medicine I had Bo Ming prepare was designed to destroy a man's pride. To make him impotent. I had secretly mixed it into Wenji's tea. The timing could not have been more perfect. Not only had it spared me from him, I also had the pleasure of watching panic consume him piece by piece. And for a man like Ma Wenji, nothing was more terrifying than losing his manhood. I left him alone with his fear. Later that night, I slipped into the hidden room behind the abandoned west courtyard, where Bo Ming was already waiting for me. The moment I saw him, my tense body finally gave out. I stepped into his arms and pressed my face against his chest. What happened? Bo Ming asked immediately, his voice filled with concern. Did he hurt you? Just stay like this for a moment, I murmured quietly. Your warmth calms me. His entire body stiffened. I could almost imagine the redness spreading from his ears down to his neck. Carefully, almost hesitantly, he wrapped his arms around me tighter. Everything went according to plan this morning, he said softly. Did something happen afterward? Only better news, I replied. I slowly pulled away from him. Let's move to the next phase. Have you arranged the meeting yet? Bo Ming's expression immediately turned serious. Are you certain about this? He asked. Lord Gu Yishang is not someone ordinary people should approach. That man is dangerous. I turned toward the dark courtyard outside. Dangerous men do not frighten me, I said calmly. The ones who speak sweetly are far worse. Chapter 5. Gu Yishang's gaze lingered on me from across the table. He did not look cruel. In fact, at first glance he appeared calm and refined. But most people reacted the same way under his stare, stiffening unconsciously, as though he were silently deciding whether they deserved to live or die. It took you long enough to come find me, he finally said. His voice was lazy. Did old Ma finally show his true colors? You've already heard about my condition, I replied calmly. What do you think? Gu Yishang leaned back slightly, his fingers tapping against the armrest. His eyes settled on me meaningfully. I warned your father. But he valued friendship more than judgment. So you paid for his mistake. I did not argue. Instead, I calmly lifted my teacup and took a sip. You still resent my father? You cannot entirely blame him. You were twice my age, and you wanted me to become your fourth wife. I was his only child. Naturally, he chose to protect me. Gu Yishang narrowed his eyes. The room fell quiet for a moment before he finally let out a soft chuckle. So, what exactly do you want from me? My father-in-law still possessed my family seal, and had already begun taking control of my businesses, under the excuse of managing them in my condition. I knew he would never surrender that power willingly. But if someone like Gu Yishang entered the picture, the Ma family would finally feel fear. I want to propose a partnership, I said. Gu Yishang laughed outright this time. A partnership? When you're penniless. Then consider it a loan. I calmly set my teacup down. I doubt you proposed marriage because you were deeply in love with me. I smiled faintly. You always called yourself a man with vision. And honestly, you were right. What a shame that my father failed to recognize your abilities back then. A slow grin spread across Gu Yishang's face. He stared at me for several long seconds. Then he suddenly burst into laughter. I like this version of you far more, he said. At least you did not inherit your father's brain. You might actually be suitable as my partner after all. Gu Yishang arrived at the Ma residence the very next day. He threw several loan contracts onto the table in front of my father-in-law. Old Ma's expression darkened as he picked them up. I've never heard old Jung mention any debt like this before, he said sharply. And even if he did owe you money, why should I repay it? Why don't you take it up with his grave? He tossed the papers aside dismissively and turned away as though the matter no longer concerned him. But Gu Yishang had not become the most feared loan shark in the city by letting people walk away from debts. Not even for a single coin. It clearly states here, Gu Yishang said patiently, that in the event of his death, the debt transfers to his next of kin. He tapped the contract lightly. Didn't your son marry his daughter? His gaze slowly swept across the room. Where is your son? Bring him out. Old Ma's face stiffened. So this is revenge, he snapped. I heard you once wanted Shu Jing for yourself as well. Gu Yishang clicked his tongue softly. You should be careful with your words, he warned calmly. Either repay the debt, or I drag your son and daughter-in-law before the district magistrate myself. At the mention of the district hall, old Ma finally faltered. His expression tightened as he grabbed the contracts again. But this amount is absurd, he muttered. Why would old Jung borrow so much money? That was my cue. I stepped forward slowly, lowering my eyes as tears gathered within them. When my father fell ill, our businesses suffered severe losses. He was too proud to borrow from friends or relatives, so he secretly turned to Lord Yishang instead. I forced my voice to tremble. He used the money to stabilize the businesses. Of course, the contracts themselves had only been created recently. Gu Yishang and I forged them together, along with my father's seal. Fortunately, not enough time had passed for old Ma to notice any inconsistencies. As my father-in-law carefully inspected the documents again, I suddenly dropped to my knees before him. It is all my fault, I cried. I planned to tell you sooner, but then I became paralyzed. I could not even speak, no matter how desperately I wanted to. We have failed to repay the interest for so long, so the debt must have grown beyond control. Old Ma suddenly hurled the papers directly at me. So all this time, he shouted furiously, everything I earned was just going toward paying off your father's debt? Father, please calm yourself, I said quickly. Under your management, I'm certain the businesses will recover soon. You can easily earn it back. What? He exploded. Am I your servant now? His face reddened with rage. You deal with this yourself. I'll only take the portion I personally earned. Sell your estate if you must. I do not care. Then he stormed away without even sparing me another glance. I watched his retreating figure silently. Beside me, Gu Yishang bent down and helped me to my feet. I calmly tore the contracts into pieces. Gu Yishang watched the scraps flutter to the ground before letting out a low chuckle. I wonder how much longer his money will last, he mused. His own businesses already collapsed once, so he latched onto your father's instead. Men like him have no vision. No patience. They only know how to devour. Thank you for today, my lord, I said politely. I apologize for dragging you into this matter. Gu Yishang shook his head slowly. A faint smile curved at the corner of his lips. On the contrary, he said. There are few things I enjoy, such as watching men like him fall apart. Chapter 6. I had to force Bo Ming to hand over the third medicine I requested. Even then he delayed for days. You do not need this, he insisted. Ma Wengao is weak. Once he is pressured, he will confess eventually. No, I replied coldly. He fears his father and brother too much. He wouldn't expose them easily. So I need to push him harder. I need him trembling badly enough to destroy himself. Bo Ming frowned deeply. If you go through with this, your reputation will suffer as well. I cannot allow that. I turned toward him fully. My reputation was destroyed the moment I had to expose myself in front of you just to survive. Bo Ming froze instantly, his ears turning red. I only ever treated you as a patient, he said quickly. I swear I never had improper thoughts toward you. I know. But it still wounded my pride. A bitter laugh escaped me. I spent my entire life believing I was smarter than everyone around me. Yet I still allowed myself to be deceived so completely. I even had to rely on a younger man like you to clean my body and keep me alive. Slowly, I took his hand and pressed it lightly against my chest. Tell me honestly, I whispered. Have you ever experienced humiliation like this? Bo Ming immediately tried to look away, but I gently turned his face back toward me. Give me the medicine, I said softly. At this point, I would walk through hell itself if it meant making them pay. For a long moment, Bo Ming remained silent. Then he murmured quietly. Why does it feel like you're losing something, even as you reclaim everything? I forced a faint smile. I'm not losing anything. But even as I said the words, I knew they were a lie. Some parts of me had already disappeared forever. My innocence. My trust. The woman I once was. At last, Bo Ming slowly placed a small white packet into my palm. Thank you, I whispered. Impulsively, I leaned forward and pressed a light kiss against his cheek. That same night, I drank the medicine and waited for its effects to take hold. By dawn, I was kneeling outside the district hall. My hair hung loose. My face was pale. Tears streamed endlessly down my cheeks as I begged to see the magistrate. I was violated, I cried brokenly. The gathered crowd erupted into whispers immediately. Then, right before the magistrate's guards, I suddenly doubled over and vomited violently onto the ground. My vision blurred. Moments later, darkness swallowed me whole. When I regained consciousness, I found myself lying inside a private room within the district hall. Bo Ming sat beside my bed while the magistrate stood nearby with a grave expression. The moment I stirred awake, the magistrate stepped closer. You claimed you were violated, he said carefully. Tell me exactly what happened. I immediately lowered my head and began trembling. While I was paralyzed, my brother-in-law came into my room and... My voice broke apart into sobs. I forced the words out through shaking breaths and tears. He listened in silence from beginning to end. Then he turned toward Bo Ming. And your opinion, he asked. She is showing signs consistent with pregnancy, he answered carefully. To confirm it, we can examine her urine. The magistrate's expression darkened immediately. Do it, he ordered. Bring me proof. Then his gaze shifted back toward me. If the evidence supports your claim, he said slowly, I will personally summon the Ma family to court. Bo Ming and I already knew what the result would be. The third medicine had only one purpose: to temporarily alter my body long enough for the test to appear positive. Soon I found myself standing inside the district hall, facing the Ma family at last. We stood on opposite sides of the courtroom while the magistrate presided above us. Ma Wengao had been brought and bound with ropes after attempting to flee. I didn't do anything to her. Wengao shouted desperately. She's framing me. Silence, the magistrate barked. Have you no shame at all? The woman is carrying your child. Wengao's face instantly drained of color. Sweat gathered heavily along his temples as he shook his head frantically. No, that's impossible, he stammered. That child cannot be mine. There is still no proof my son violated her, old Ma argued as he stepped forward. Anyone could have entered her room. How can she possibly know who it was? So you are admitting that your household neglected her safety so severely that any man could freely enter the room of a defenseless woman? Old Ma froze. Because that was exactly what had happened. I slowly dropped to my knees before the court. My lord, please grant justice to this humble woman. Tears streamed down my face. I could not move. I could not even open my eyes. But I heard him. His voice. His laughter while he violated me. The courtroom fell deathly silent. He even said, I continued through broken sobs, that he tried to stay sober so he could remember what he planned to do to me. When Gao's eyes widened in horror. You could actually hear me, he blurted out instinctively. Stop talking. Old Ma hissed immediately. Then he quickly turned back toward the magistrate. My lord, her consciousness drifted in and out during that period, he argued. Her memories cannot possibly be reliable. The magistrate let out a long sigh. You still refuse to confess? He asked coldly. Very well. Bring in the witness. The crowd immediately parted. When Ji's mistress slowly stepped into the courtroom and stopped directly between both sides. The moment the Ma family recognized her, disbelief flashed across their faces. State your name and testimony, the magistrate ordered. My lord, my name is Ju Er, she said softly. I was once a courtesan. Then she slowly raised a trembling finger toward Wen Ji. He carried on an affair with me long before his brother violated me. And after their crimes were exposed, Ju Er continued tearfully, their family attempted to force me out of the city to silence me. Affair? Wen Ji scoffed loudly. I only visited her at the courtesan house a few times. He turned toward the courtroom as though appealing to common sense. If visiting a courtesan counts as an affair, then every man in this city is guilty of one. Even now, he still tried justifying himself instead of feeling shame. Did he truly expect the crowd to sympathize with him? But Ju Er refused to retreat. You secretly brought me into the Jung residence, she shot back. We slept together in the very same bed where your paralyzed wife lay helpless beside us. Gasps exploded from the crowd gathered behind us. Wen Ji's expression shifted the moment he heard them reacting. She's lying, he shouted angrily. She sells her body for money. How can you trust anything she says? You are the truly disgusting one, Ju Er snapped back immediately. Then she slowly opened her palm. Inside rested a pair of earrings. These belong to Madame Shu Jing, she said. I took them from her chamber myself. Wen Ji promised me that everything she owned would one day belong to me. One of the guards collected the earrings and presented them before me. I lowered my eyes briefly before nodding. They are indeed mine, I said. I noticed they had gone missing some time ago. Ju Er's tears fell even harder. He hated his wife so deeply that he even allowed his own brother to violate her. And afterward, that same man came after me as well. She collapsed fully onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. My lord, please grant justice to us both, she begged. Those brothers are animals. That entire family is rotten. I confess everything today because my conscience can no longer bear the guilt. Whatever punishment awaits me, I will accept it willingly. Honestly, if I had not known the truth myself, I might have believed her performance too. But Ju Er only stood before the court because I had cornered her with both threats and silver. And the moment she counted the money, her loyalty changed immediately. Ma Wen Gao, the governor called coldly. There is witness testimony and evidence against you. Are you still refusing to confess? Wen Gao's entire body trembled. It only happened once, he finally admitted hoarsely. I swear it. But I didn't actually do anything to her. Then he suddenly looked toward me. As though my belief mattered more than anyone else's. He crawled desperately toward my feet. His voice grew frantic. Shu Jing, please believe me, he begged. I truly didn't touch you. I only climbed onto the bed, but before anything happened, someone knocked me unconscious. When I woke up, I was outside in the garden. Nothing happened that night. After that, I thought you were already rotting. You smelled terrible, so I never went near you again. That child cannot be mine. It must belong to Wen Ji instead. Shut your mouth, you useless fool, Wen Ji snarled immediately. Don't say things you don't know. You were the one who encouraged me. Wen Gao snapped, his face flushing red with rage. You said I could have your wife because she was worthless to you anyway. The courtroom erupted instantly. Wen Gao staggered to his feet and walked toward Wen Ji. You've always looked down on me. You only ever throw your leftovers at me. And now you want me to bear everything alone. His voice cracked with fury. No. If I'm going down today, then I'm dragging all of you with me. Wenji lunged forward and punched him hard across the face. Go to hell. Wenji roared. You think I wanted any of this? You think living under father's control has ever made me happy? Then for the first time he turned his anger toward old Ma. I told you from the beginning that I wanted no part in your scheme. I never wanted to marry Shu Jing. You were the one who forced me. He jabbed a finger hard against his father's chest. You never cared about your sons. You only cared about control. And now look at us. We're standing in this courtroom because of you. But even then, old Ma refused to admit fault. You failed because you were weak, he spat back coldly. You ruined yourself chasing women. And you're obsessed with money, Wenji shot back immediately. You poisoned your friend's daughter just to swallow her inheritance. Everything happened because of your greed. His eyes burned with hatred. If anyone deserves punishment here, it's you. Shock rippled throughout the crowd. The governor slammed his wooden block against the table loudly. Order, he barked. Detain them all. I will announce their sentencing after further review. Guards quickly surrounded the family. One by one, the members of the Ma household were dragged away. Their heads lowered. Their dignity shattered. The crowd cursed them openly as they passed. For the first time in their lives, the Ma family finally tasted public humiliation. And that was the revenge I truly wanted. Old Ma, who always believed himself superior to my father, now stood disgraced before the entire city. My mother-in-law, who poisoned me without remorse, could only sit frozen in silence while her family destroyed itself around her. And Wenji, the husband who betrayed me, humiliated me, and treated me like a discarded object, had lost his pride as a man. The others who helped commit those crimes received exactly what they deserved as well. Not bad. Gu Yishang's amused voice sounded beside me. I turned to find him watching the empty courtroom with clear satisfaction. I mean your plan, he continued. It was ruthless. Creative too. A faint smile appeared on his lips. I like it. I only returned what they gave me, I replied calmly. Nothing more. A taste of their own poison? Exactly. Gu Yishang chuckled softly. Then his gaze drifted toward Bo Ming, who stood quietly near the doorway. What about that young physician? Bo Ming, was it? That boy is willing to risk everything for you. Are the two of you planning to be together? I looked toward Bo Ming in silence. He may look harmless now, I said softly, but who knows what someone is truly capable of becoming? I should understand that better than anyone by now. Gu Yishang burst into laughter and gave my shoulder a light pat. Smart woman, he said approvingly. Your father would be proud of you. We'll discuss our partnership tomorrow. Do not disappoint me. I bowed slightly and watched his figure disappear into the distance. Across the courtyard, Bo Ming smiled quietly at me. I did not look away. From now on, I would watch people carefully. Their words. Their expressions. Their kindness. Especially the sweet smiles hiding knives underneath.